Not on Facebook yet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. I am your host, Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, joined by Rabbi Philip Moskowitz and Rabbi Josh Broide. And we are here to take you
behind the Bima.
Behind the Bima, as we do every Wednesday night, to fill you in a little bit more about our thinking, what's going on in our lives, personally, and more importantly, communally. To, of course, interact with a special guest tonight, we have a good friend, an old friend of mine, an even older friend of Rabbi Moskowitz, and a roommate. We have the senior advisor to the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Aryeh Lightstone. Can't wait to bring him on. But first of all, let's begin by wishing everyone a Chodesh Tov, a good Rosh Chodesh.
Tov. I cannot believe it is Elul.
It's really, really hard to believe it's Elul.
One month from tomorrow night, we will be in Shul, please God, for Rosh Hashanah. Think about that.
Wow. It's hard to believe. I began my article this week and I said that when this whole thing first broke, and someone said to me, I think it was the fact checker actually, who said to me back then, Purim time, could you imagine if we're still dealing with this Rosh Hashanah? And I totally dismissed him and poo-pooed him. I was like, what are you talking about? They're going to get this under control. It's going to fade away. It's no big deal. It's not really hitting Florida. There's no way Rosh Hashanah we're not going to all be in shul.
Yeah. Purim was going to
Russia. You thought 2 weeks. You're like, we're closing 2 weeks. We're going to be back open.
Two weeks. You see that video I sent you? 2 weeks. I did think that. But I'm in good company. So did many people in the world. We all thought that. And then it was Purim, Pesach, Shavuos. And here we are, the last night of the month of Av, on the cusp of Elul. And it's still here. So on the one hand, it's sad. On the other hand, we're accommodating and we are persevering and we are resilient and tenacious and we will overcome and we will come out stronger and even better than we went in. So let's drink a l'chaim to a Chodesh Tov, a good Chodesh, a good month to everyone. As we said in the Rosh Chodesh benching last Shabbos, it should bring us all of our heart's desires. Kol mishalas libeinu latova, should be a sweet and a happy and a good month, a month of growth, a month of simcha, a month of nachas, a month of all good things. L'chaim, l'chaim, baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaro.
Amen. First of all, we got a big shout out this week behind the Bima.
Really, where?
Yeah, I was on a conference call, one of these Zoom meetings with rabbis. It was like a board of rabbis, and they had one of the big teachers in our country, Dr. Brown. She might be watching right now. And she said,
my old babysitter.
Your old babysitter.
Roommates. We've got on Moskowitz this whole childhood.
Dozens of rabbis. And she's saying, one of the best things I've ever seen to come out of this coronavirus is this program called Behind the Bima.
We'll take it.
We'll take it.
We'll take that endorsement anytime.
That's her way of saying she wants to come on the show.
We'd love to have her
on right now.
Let's acknowledge our sponsor for tonight. The sponsorship of the Oppenheimer Law Firm, personal injury law firm representing injury victims and their families throughout Florida. And our dear friend Donnie Oppenheimer and family of Oppenheimer Law Firm has sponsored tonight in honor of the fantastic and important work done by Aryeh Lightstone, my fellow alum of the best Hesda Yeshiva in Israel, second best Shalvim. So
he was very excited for you to say that line, by the way.
Was he? Second best. So we want to thank Donnie Oppenheimer, Oppenheimer Law Group. Donnie is a great lawyer, a great friend. He's actually been a great pillar addition to our community the short time he's lived here. And you should never need him if you slip or fall or have a personal injury. But if you do, he will get the job done for you. We know that because we have a good friend who we got the job done for, who's now semi-retired because of it.
Before 911, what's that? How's it go? Call Donnie.
Something like that. So we thank him. And while tonight is the last day of the month of Av, as we said, but the truth is it's known as Rosh Chodesh Elul. It really is Rosh Chodesh Elul. And Elul is an interesting thing. I want to throw this at you as we wait for our special guest to join us this evening, because Elul is an acronym. We all know that. Every minute since they're children. Elul can stand for Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, the loving, romantic relationship with Hashem, not a punitive, not a king and a servant, but ultimately what we strive for is this love affair, Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty. We should feel His presence, His love. We should reciprocate and love Him. And Ish L'Re'ehu Matanos L'Avyonim, interpersonally, it can stand for the responsibility that we have towards one another. Es Levavcha Ve'es Levav, that the Orla we're removing. There's literally dozens, if not hundreds, of acronym everyone has found. But I saw a new one this year from the Megala Amukos. And the Megala Amukos says that it stands for, you ready?
Yeah.
It stands for Elos Rashi Tevos Aron, Luchos, Vishivrei Luchos. The Ark, the tablets, and the broken tablets. And, nobody listens to Behind the Bima to get a shir, or maybe not even a Dvar Torah. But it jumped out at me because we think of Elul as a time that we're, well, yeah, Elul is a time that we're supposed to see ourselves as whole and tshuva and repair, and all that is true. But there's also a role for the Shivrei Luchos. We're living through a very broken time. A lot of people feel very broken, feel somewhat desperate, even alone. And it's a time for feeling connected, even not only through the whole tablets, but the broken of our lives. We hold on to those shards, we put them back together, and even the moments of the mistakes or the imperfect parts of our past also contribute to our journey of growth. So I think there's a lot of that going on. There's things over these 4, 5, 6 months that people feel are broken tablets. They could have or should have or would have done differently, things that didn't happen the way they dreamt or looked forward or wanted them to be. And those broken shards also have a role and a place to play here too.
Are you looking back at the last few months now saying, you know what, I can't believe how quickly this has gone by. And I know there were certain projects I probably should have started, and now it's almost over, and now I don't have time?
Well, the whole thing is definitely a blur. Like, we were reflecting upon this because my daughter's starting school tomorrow, and it's hard to believe they haven't been in school since basically Purim time. And the whole thing definitely feels like a big blur. It's hard to believe that so many months have gone by when we haven't had normal functioning society. It's pretty wild. Our fact checker does point out, Rabbi Goldberg, that spells Elush, not Elul, but we like the Dvar Torah nonetheless.
What do you want? Vishivrei Luchot.
Yeah, no, it's not. It totally works out.
With
all due respect to our fact checker, like the people that he supports politically, sometimes they need to be checked. Aron Luchos, the Vava Vishivrei, and Luchos, Elul. Aron Aleph, Luchos, Lamed, Vishivrei Vav, Luchos, Lamed, spells Elul. He might have hit the L'chaim before we did tonight. So happy to fact check the fact checker. But yeah, the broken month, it definitely has passed quickly. In some ways, it's been slow and taken an eternity. And in other ways, half a year has gone by.
Right.
But I'll tell you, there are hidden brachas in this. My kids went back to Israel, my oldest daughter, her husband, and my grandson. And Baruch Hashem, they're in Israel. They're in their bidud. They're in their legit quarantine, not an American quarantine. They're in the Israeli, we're calling you, tracking your cell phone, coming to your door, you better be there kind of a quarantine. But my grandson is now 10 months old, and he spent 5 of those months with me, which is the way it should be.
It's amazing.
So, there are broken luchos, but they're full luchos. They're the broken moments. They're the shards. They're the imperfect things. They're the things that didn't go the way we wanted or dreamt of. But if we're willing to look at some silver linings, there's a lot of wonderful things also.
For sure. Well, what's one thing? Let me ask you guys, what's one thing that you guys do differently now that you never even dreamed you would have been able to do pre-COVID? Right? I mean, I'm sure I definitely have a list in my head of things that I do with my family, personally, whether it's my well-being, work-life balance, whatever the case might be. What's one thing that you look back on these months and you say to yourself, I'm so happy I was able to do that, and I really want to keep that going forward?
Go ahead, Rabbi Brody.
Our house has never been more organized. It's ridiculous. Like, I love shopping at Walmart right now. I have 2s of everything. And when I see there's half of something, I know exactly when we're not running out. I am so stocked. I know which waters we have, which Sprites, but one of the best projects we definitely got started. We literally went through about 4,000 photographs. It took about 4 months, a little bit every day. And I think we're about ready to get them scanned. I got this great service. 50% off until the end of the month, so I got to get it done soon.
They're not a sponsor, so don't mention them.
I can't say who they are. But
they're invited to be a sponsor.
Right, maybe one day. But it's great. They're all going to finally
Rabbi, what about you?
I thought Rabbi Brody was going to say he hasn't put on pants in 6 months, but I like you have a lot of wonderful things that have come out of it. And again, I think that we are in a position that we have the luxury of saying that because thank God we have our health and our family has their health, and we have not been directly hit, though. Some of our family members, some of us have been affected directly by COVID. So I think it's important to acknowledge that we have that luxury, and we're grateful and keenly aware of it. But there have definitely been some blessings. There's not a Shabbos that has gone by, not a Shabbos since the beginning of COVID, that I've not gone for a walk with my children. Let me just tell you this, in the 20 years prior, there's not a Shabbos that went by that I went for a walk with my children, not one. So the nature of Shabbos meals, the nature of dinner, the nature even of doing a lot more work from home, where I don't think we're working any less, and the stress is enormous of the work we're doing. But just being present, just right. Being around is a whole other level. It's a whole other game, and it's been great.
Moskowitz?
That's great. For me, I would say, again, as Rabbi Goldberg said, there are many moments that stand out. One is definitely Shalosh Shudas. as much as I loved Shalosh and Shul, there's something really special about sitting outside with my children, singing. We got into a routine of the same songs. We do dancing. It's really beautiful. And in fact, in the back of my yard where I have hedges, there's a street. And I can't see who's behind there, but sometimes people will walk by while we're singing outside and they'll just start singing along with me from the street. And it's really beautiful. So that's been one real highlight. And I think the other one for me is meals with my children, right? I mean, Rabbi Goldberg and Rabbi Broide, we go to so many events and so many of them are during dinner time. We're always running out, and whether it's to Minyan or whether it's to this event or that dinner or that simcha, the last 4 months, I probably ate dinner with my family more times than as you said, than I have in my life. And it was really nice just to be able to catch up with my kids, share stories, tell them what's going on in the news today. That was a really precious moment as well. And you know, I'm nervous about losing that because I know how meaningful it was for them and how meaningful it was for me also.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that because there was a time with Shabbos meals, you know, like you, we have guests all the time. And it's one of the greatest joys and pleasures, and we love it. You really get to know people, and you get to have conversation uninterrupted, no technology, nowhere else to be. Those Shabbos meals are really special. But we tried to do one meal alone as a family, one meal with guests every Shabbos. And my children were at a point where they loved having guests, they loved interacting. And when we were alone, it wasn't as exciting, wasn't as interesting. They didn't hear stories, they didn't necessarily meet other people. And when they'd come to the table, let's say both meals we were alone, they'd be like, "Where are the guests?" We're like, "We don't have any, we're alone." What? We don't want to be alone. Now we've been literally alone. Oh, there we go again, literally.
Oh.
Our Twitter follower is going to call me out on the literally. But again, every time I think about it, I'm pretty sure I use it literally. I use it accurately. Anyway, we've literally been alone every meal for these 5-6 months. And my children aren't complaining. We've fallen into a beautiful routine of singing and laughing and divrei Torah and conversation, a little debate. And it's been wonderful. It's been, you know, playing games. There've been an enormous amount of games and tournaments. My kids are a little bit older than you, Rabbi Moskowitz, and then your second batch, Rabbi Broide. But the games that we play, Rummikub and
we should play together.
Definitely Rummy Cube. Hold on,
Yeah,
Rummy Cube.
As I was saying it, where's our fact checker now?
Somewhere it changed from Rummy Cube to Rummy Cub.
It's Rummy Cube, and I'll tell you, there's a store in Boston called Couples, which some people mistakenly called couples. It's really couples, but it should be Couples, and it's the same thing. Rummy Cub, Rummy Cube.
Listen, I'm with you. I think all of us agree it's Rummy Cube, but I think I've been overwhelmed. Just like my kids got me saying the word literally, they also got me saying it Rummy Cub. It's two girsos. There's two ways to pronounce it. They're both legitimate. Depends on your Masorah, depends on your family background, depends what you believe. But anyway, when you get to that point, those tournaments, so Rummy Cub I play with my kids because I could beat them. But I will not play with them. What's a bananagram? Is that comes in the yellow banana thing? Yeah. I will not play bananagrams because my kids and my wife in particular are killers, and they have a killer instinct, and they peel every 3 seconds, and it's obnoxious, and I won't even play with them on that. But there's also other kinds of games. What's the other game? My kids actually took some of these existing names, like games like Code Names. Have you ever played Code Names?
No.
All right, we should get Code Names to be a sponsor because I'm about to plug them. But go on Amazon when we're done and order Code Names. Again, you need kids who are a little bit older, a little bit more sophisticated. You make teams and it's hints and allusions. So my kids were fantastic. They actually made up their own hints. We didn't use the ones from the game with things from our family, and it made it even more fun. So I'm just thought these kind of things. Right. My kids have made up cahoots about the family that we've had. Right. Like these are kinds of things that pre-corona never. Ever would have happened.
Played before, right?
And I'll tell you, for me, even, you know, we also have our games, which are age appropriate. We play Monopoly Deal more than I probably even, you know, it's crazy how much we play in our house. But I'll tell you one thing interesting for me is it's not just my immediate family, but because we started doing family Zooms and that became such an important ritual for us, my kids ended up seeing their cousins more over COVID than they did normally because we made such an effort to continuously be in contact with my mom and with my siblings and with their children. So again, there are lots of little tidbits and nuggets along the way that were really, really special. And in fact, Aryeh and I were saying that one of the regrets we have is that we didn't document it along the way. And we regret not having reflected upon it as it was going, because in 15, 20 years from now, we're going to want to sit with our children. Remember, what did it feel like when you were, you know, in this pandemic? What did it feel like with no Shabbos meals and no shul? And we wanted to feel those experiences in real time. And we regret not having done that.
So should I tell you something? Again, if you have an older kid, this gets a little bit easier and better, but your kids are getting to that age. First of all, headbands is another game, which is fun to play, and you can make up your own clues and hints for headbands, a lot of fun. But one of my daughters, I won't mention her name, rhymes with Shamar. She's a great kid. So she actually took videos since the beginning of Corona through last week. Obviously, you can't include Shabbos or Yontif, but things that we didn't notice, moments that we didn't see. We had a family Olympics we played one night, and she made a video star, like a musical background, short video, and 5 minutes recapping what those 5 months were.
Great. That's awesome.
Not surprising to you probably, but I was bawling and watching, and it is. So you talk about that diary or the ability to capture it, the pictures, the videos. It shouldn't be lost on us. So especially as we are approaching and entering Elul, it's a good time to pause and reflect and look back and take stock of, you know, what we wish would have been different, what were the moments we lost and we wish we could recover or we hope to make up for in the future, and what are the great moments, what are the things we learned, we took away that we want to keep going, we want to repeat. How do we create that either literal or virtual memory to carry us a lifetime?
It's funny, you and I know we both have said it Erev Rosh Hashanah, before Rosh Hashanah, but one of the things that we oftentimes comment on as we approach Rosh Hashanah is we think of Rosh Hashanah as the new. It's the new year. In other words, forget about last year. Now I'm going to the new year. But we oftentimes comment that the very first thing we do on Rosh Hashanah is we make a bracha of Shechianu, right? We thank Hashem for getting us to this point. It's not just about the future, but there is an element of this time of the year, as you just said, about reflecting on the past. And of course, it was not perfect, and there was a lot of suffering along the way. But thank God there were also some very beautiful moments.
It should be a Chodesh Tov for all of us, a sweet and a happy month and a great year. Our guest is going to be on any minute. Until then, Rabbi Moskowitz, what are you drinking tonight? What's in the glass?
I'm drinking some white wine, actually. Why am I drinking white wine? Because one of the things that we did over COVID that my children have gotten really into is these cooking shows, and they love cooking. So it's been a lot of fun. Not only have we eaten as a family, but we've cooked as a family. And one of the recipes called for white wine. So my kids were very upset we didn't have any in the house. So I went out to the store, I got some, and there was a little bit left over. So I'm drinking the Shirayim from the leftovers. One for the team. I'm taking, you know, someone's got to finish it up. It's not negotiable. It's got to be gone.
Are you willing to share with us what type of wine it is? What type of white wine?
No, because let's just say I didn't go for quality when I went to the store.
Yeah, well, whenever you get a cooking wine, you're not going to go for the real expensive shelf.
Although I will tell you, I did a wine tasting last week with Glenn Galish, who arranged for a boutique winery in Israel. The wines are not available in the United States for sale, but Glenn purchased them.
My invitation must have gotten lost to that.
Yeah, me too.
You were making a wedding. You were making. All right, now I see. Okay,
I was back, but that's okay. We're all good.
Thanks, Glenn.
But it was nice. It was really. This guy lives on a hilltop in Yehuda v'Shomron, really, really out there, and he's making wine. And he's fulfilling the dreams of the Jewish people, settling the lands and producing it and profiting from it. And it was really nice to be able to enjoy that and to be able to enjoy the experience with him 4 a.m. in Israel. So, which was also nice. What are you drinking, Rabbi?
I'm drinking my favorite Scotch, which is Lafroig, Smoky PD. And we have a special distinction of actually having a wonderful relationship with the ambassador. Tonight's about ambassadors. We're waiting for the senior advisor of the ambassador any minute now.
Where's that guy?
That is a very prominent ambassador. Maybe you want to text him. But our
he said
senior
3 minutes
advisor
late.
No problem. Our senior advisor to the ambassador of Israel. But we also know the ambassador of Lafroig, who with his kilt and Simon with his Scottish accent comes and offers the best l'chaims, the best toasts that you've ever heard. I was actually going through some old videos on my phone, which you know, because I shared some with you. And I found a few of the, when we were with Simon, and he offered some of his Scottish toast. So for Lafroig, peaty, smoky, delicious. Rabbi Broide, where are you tonight? That is not your normal background.
Yes, I've got some water because I'm at the Federation, and I don't think they allow any drinks in here, but we'll see. Maybe next week.
You will tell us more about the Federation in a moment.
Is the man. Wow, got all dressed up for us.
There
he is.
Is that the first class lounge?
Senior advisor to the United States ambassador to Israel, our dear friend Aryeh Lightstone, Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight, coming behind the Bima with us. We really deeply appreciate it.
Nice to see you, rabbis. Lots of rabbis on my screen. Very nice.
Lots of rabbis. So Rabbi Lightstone, Aryeh has a long and impressive resume. He's been involved in Jewish communal leadership and political advocacy and leadership for many, many years. We have limited time. He's actually headed back, please God, to the Holy Land, where he resides with his family today and serves so faithfully, advancing the U.S.-Israel relationship. So if it's okay, we'll just skip right to the position that you hold today. which is really incredible. Earlier this year, Yom Yerushalayim, you and I had a conversation. Those who want to watch can watch it on YouTube. And you really disclosed and shared so much with us about this extraordinary journey to the position that you're in right now. But we're hoping tonight, in the limited time we have with you, to go a little bit behind the Bima. You and I have known each other for a long time. You know Rabbi Moskowitz even longer. So we're hoping you'll take us behind the Bima, what it was like to share a room with Rabbi Philip Moskowitz. And as significantly, to give us a little bit of insights into the new peace treaty with the UAE, which we know you are a big part of, and you deserve a lot of credit for. And while Behind the Bima is an apolitical show, and we don't endorse any candidates, but I don't want to say we'd be remiss. We are obligated to thank you and thank the administration for its success in advancing what nobody saw coming and what is historic and what seems to be opening the door to continued progress of peace for Israel, which really anybody who is any good people in the world should be grateful for that. So take us behind the Bima, Rabbi Lightstone.
Yeah, enough about that. Let's hear about Rabbi Moskowitz. What do you see?
First of all, I got some stories too, so you better watch out on me.
Yeah, I'd like to be clear. I know Rabbi Broide well as well, so I'm happy to share stories about anybody at this point in time. But it's exciting to spend part of my evening with you guys. It is exciting to feel both comfortable and at home with a group. And while we can't see most of the people watching, I feel that we're sort of forget Behind the Bima. I think we're partially in the Kiddush Club.
You should know that we have a great audience across several platforms right now, and when it goes up on podcast, even more listens. So there are a lot of people who are really fans of yours and deeply appreciative to you, including our sponsor for tonight, Donnie Oppenheimer and the Oppenheimer Law Group, who sponsored in your honor, and the fact that you are alumna of the same Hesder Yeshiva in Israel.
Well, there are very few people. There are very few kehilot that I have, I think, as strong of a connection to, having never lived there. And all of your sponsors. I know that we've done the cool things from the pictures that you order, and you did that. That was on the last show I was at. And then my wife listened to the show and said, "Oh my goodness, how did I not win something at Feder Jewelers?" So she's been shopping there as well. And now apparently, if we need legal things, we're going to go to my friend Donnie, who I know was whip smart back in yeshiva. I can only imagine that he's a phenomenal and ethical attorney. So back to what my guess is most of the people want to listen to. Is really something that hasn't been pointed out as specifically as it should be. And when President Trump delegated Ambassador Friedman and Jared Kushner to open up our embassy in Jerusalem on May 14th, 2018, senior advisor Jared Kushner had a line there that was much ridiculed by those who were not interested in seeing the U.S. follow the law that had been on the books since 1995, which was to do three things. Number one is to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, December 2017, open up our embassy, May 14th, 2018, and move the ambassador's residence to Jerusalem, March of 2019, therefore being in full compliance of a law that had been on the books and for all intents and purposes had either been ignored or violated, depending on one's legal advice. We'll ask Donnie after the show, the law from 1995. But at that, there were so many really meaningful and powerful speeches that my kids at a young age still today will turn on and learn and be inspired by. But amongst them, Jared Kushner then gave the President Trump foreign policy philosophy. And he said that by moving and opening the embassy, today we are one step closer to peace. And people are like, okay, you do something pro-Israel, you have to throw in the pro-peace line. That way you're not maligned by everybody. And that's not how Senior Advisor Kushner does business. He really tells it how it is. And how true it is just 2 years and a little bit later, that the first peace treaty in over 26 years, and I really liken it to the Egyptian treaty of more than 40 years ago, has come to fruition in a way that will forever change the way that the Gulf, the Middle East, and the broader world actually looks. And to have played a minor role in that is a privilege of a lifetime. But just to be very specific about this, Jared Kushner said on May 14, 2018, that by recognizing the truth, peace is one step closer than it was the day beforehand. And how true those words are then, and how much truer do they ring today. When the UAE and Israel came towards this joint statement, I would encourage everybody, this is something that's a pet peeve of mine. The amount of people who will call and criticize the president's vision for peace because it doesn't have A, B, or C, or has X, Y, or Z in it because they read something about it. And my first question is, have you read the plan? And the answer 98% of the time is, no, I have not. So we spent a lot of time on this. We don't believe that you can solve Middle East peace with slogans and jargons and goodwill and a pat on the back, that other people tried it that way. We believe you can solve Middle East peace by providing realistic opportunities for all of the peoples in the region. And that happened. It happened when the president recognized Jerusalem. It happened when he moved the embassy there. It happened when we moved the ambassador's home there. It happened when we recognized the Golan. It happened when we got out of the Iran deal. I think you saw the news that snapback sanctions have begun that process this evening going into tomorrow, where I believe Secretary Pompeo will deliver a letter to the United Nations. That will be very interesting to watch and to see what happens. It has to do with Secretary Pompeo's letter that settlements, yeshuvim, a place where Jews live in Judea and Samaria, is not per se illegal, which reversed U.S. law since 1979. That's not Ambassador Friedman. That's not even Jared Kushner. That is U.S. law and policy since 1979. All of those things were not done because there's a right-wing bent or a left-wing bent or a centrist bent. They were all done because they're real. And if you acknowledge reality and not narrative, you can get stuff done.
It's really, can I interrupt for 1 second? It's really, it's an extraordinary breakthrough. Obviously, it represents tremendous progress. It opens the door to further progress and breakthrough. It changes the whole narrative in the Middle East and much, much more. But here's my question for you, then I'll hand it off to your old roommate. My question for you is, no one saw it coming. I mean, again, we're pretty, I think the rabbis on this program, we're pretty well informed, pretty well read. We're pretty up to date on these issues. And everyone kind of just turned on the news, saw that and said, what? Wow. So, you know, they say the old saying is that the Jewish version, the Jewish notion of a secret is something you tell people one by one. I love that saying because there's a lot of truth to it. A Jewish secret is something you tell people one by one. How was this kept secret? And what was it like to be part of, take us behind the Bima. What was it like to be part of that secret? Was it hard for you to keep it to yourself? Were you tempted to share it? Were you doubtful at the beginning? At what point did you really believe it was going to happen and it would be seen through? I know you were at the White House when it was announced and you were part of that. Take us behind the Bima, what that was like.
So in terms of keeping a secret comes in two capacities. Number one is the law. It's classified. So people who break that, and you've seen that not just in these past 4 years, but you've seen us throughout all time. And so what brings somebody to break the law in that particular case? So there has to be some form of self-serving capacity to decide that I am going to divulge or leak or break something that has to do that. Ambassador Friedman, Jared Kushner, Avi Berkowitz, who is a unsung hero of this entire scenario, have the following thing in common. They believe that the credit belongs to the president, and therefore they're not trying to take it for themselves or for their team or for their whatever else it would be. The credit is the president. The president set up a mission, set up a team, and set up a vision, and set up a goal. And until we fulfill that goal, there's nothing to break. So therefore, Ambassador Friedman has accomplished an enormous amount, both in his personal, professional, and now diplomatic career. You can say the exact same for Mr. Kushner, and you can say the exact same thing for Mr. Berkowitz. And therefore, because of that, their trust, their appreciation, and I dare say their like of each other says that I've got nothing to gain versus what I have to lose if I divulge something that shouldn't be divulged. And therefore, each one of them who told somebody something, so myself on obviously Ambassador Friedman's team, and those people that Avi Berkowitz shared with and Jared Kushner shared with, are people who appreciate and recognize the sanctity of the task that we have. And to break that sanctity doesn't only mean that we would be violating the trust of people that we both trust and we like, but we'll be messing up the mission. This mission to be successful had to be accomplished with a very tight-knit small circle. And I absolutely credit the leaders of that team for having gotten that done in that way. And part of the excitement here was the surprise. And I'll tell you this: I've not been in the Oval Office nearly as many times as the other people on the peace team, but I've been there a couple times, and I've been involved with important decisions. Had the opportunity to observe these things occur in real time. Post the phone call in between the Prime Minister and the Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed, which was led by the president in the way only the president could do. The phone was hung up, and everybody in that room burst into spontaneous applause and stood up and clapped. There were no cameras. It was not recorded. It was genuine simcha. It was genuine happiness for what had been accomplished and genuine appreciation for the people in the room, who everybody knows that you are only as strong as your weakest link, that everybody in that room, that was the circle of trust. And there was this excitement and appreciation for the leadership, for the direction, for the vision that we were given, but also for the team that was able to come together and get it done. So there was fear and trepidation. It was funny when I was in DC for 36 hours prior to the announcement. Every 7 to 8 minutes, somebody would be on Twitter checking the people who normally break various different stuff. And about 45 minutes prior to the announcement, all of our phones blew up with person A, B, C, or D, all at the same time, because they know if they can't get Avi, they get me. If they can't get the ambassador, they get Jared, et cetera, et cetera. And we're like, shoot, they're onto something. It wasn't. They were onto something completely and totally different. And it gave tremendous joy that if you put your head down and you don't care who gets the credit, what you can possibly accomplish. And I just be very clear about this, and I'll be done answering your question. Like a rabbi, the answer is significantly longer.
Don't worry, I have a follow-up.
You've met your match, rabbis. What deserves credit is Israel kept this completely and totally secret.
Right.
The UAE kept this completely and totally secret while still involving the people who needed to know. And I think if you find a greater purpose, a greater mission, people are willing to sacrifice their personal glory for the greater goal. And this is not a who wins and who loses. This was a unique win-win-win situation. And again, if you've ever been in a room where you just jump up and you clap because there's nothing else to do, that feeling will stick with me forever. It was just very powerful.
So I got a lot of questions for you. And first of all, it's great to see you.
Very nice to see you.
When we were putting together the flyer, there was a debate amongst our staff as to whether you should be Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone or Aryeh Lightstone. Do you use the title rabbi in your current role, or do you not use your title in the current role? We went with the title rabbi because I felt, I was in smicha with you, that you're deserving of a title that you studied for and you earned. I'm curious how you feel about that, right? When you go out into the political realm, you're a representative of the administration, you're a representative of Ambassador Friedman, and yet you also have obviously a very rich background as a rabbi, and you were a rabbi in West Orange and in the 5 towns, and you and I learned in smicha together. I'm curious how you in your mind view those two, how one informs the other, and do you use the title rabbi? Do you not use the title rabbi? When do you choose to kind of turn that off and turn that on?
I don't choose to use it or not to use it. It's a part of my bio. I'm certainly very proud of my entire background. I think that educating and inspiring and hopefully reaching out to the Jewish people is part of the rich experience that's made me a better human being today. And I think that is beneficial. There is no doubt in this administration. I'd like to believe in all administrations, there's tremendous respect for people who dedicate themselves selflessly. And when I say selflessly, at least certainly without any economic reward, to benefiting something greater than them. And that could be teachers. This past experience, I think we've discovered nurses are unsung heroes. Teachers who are going back now in uncertain times are unsung heroes. And sometimes we take that for granted and we shouldn't. I'll tell you this, in all of the experiences that I've had, it's been Secretary Mnuchin and Vice President Pence who have always insisted on calling me rabbi. I never once told either of them that I am a rabbi, but they believe that that's an elevated part of the title. My single greatest title that I think I can have is just trying to be a good person where I go. If the title rabbi is beneficial, then that's great. On occasion, I think it's too great of a, I want to use the word burden at all, but it's a great responsibility to carry. And sometimes we wind up in a position where I have to be very firm and I have to be very strong, if you will, on occasion the bad guy in a relationship, and I'm concerned that the strength of that message diminishes from the elevated stature that being a rabbi would have. There's a reason, I think, in Pirkei Avot it says that you should stay away from politics, and I think that's probably a general rule for all people, but for people in rabbinics all the more so. It's difficult. It is absolutely difficult, but not once, and this I credit to Ambassador Friedman every single day, and count him amongst the blessings that I've been granted with. Never once has he put me in a position where I've had to compromise who I am, certainly as a person or as a rabbi, to complete any part of my job. And I doubt that any person in my position throughout all of U.S. governmental history has not had that situation. I've not been forced in that situation, not a single time.
I'll make this comment before Rabbi Brody asks his question, and I know your time is short. You're traveling back tonight. We're so grateful again. Aryeh Lightstone, Senior Advisor, the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, is with us in this historic time. I will say this, that, this is not false flattery, because I say it in front of you, I say it behind your back, and we've known each other a long time. I don't need to, but Aryeh, you're a Kiddush Hashem wherever you go, and there are people I know who, to say that they're not fans of the administration, not only their policies, but the administration's the way it presents itself or character, is the understatement of the century, who nevertheless have all the praise in the world about you, Rabbi Lightstone, and their interaction with you. I've been in Israel with groups that are very diverse that you've spoken to. And it's not only those who are fans of this administration and its policies who appreciate their interaction with you, but it's really been everyone, and the other side even more so. So keep making that extraordinary Kiddush Hashem that you're doing. We're proud of it and we're grateful for it. Rabbi Brody.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. Speaking of trips, you brought us into the new embassy. We had a federation trip. I was there with Rabbi Moskowitz, and very little notice. You treated everyone like VIPs. You had us sit in one of the main rooms. You said, in this chair, this is where so-and-so sat, and that chair that you're sitting in is another great, one of the great world leaders sat. And it was certainly something we'll never forget. Certainly, if you have any breaking news, we won't share it with anyone. If you want to do behind the Bima breaking news. No, but I'm just wondering, you see someone like yourself, and you see someone like, let's say, Jared Kushner, two guys that grew up in the same kind of world that we all grew up in, went to yeshiva day school. Do you ever go over to Jared and say, we're standing in the Oval Office. I'm saying, what's it like for two guys? Is there like that Jewish connection that you guys might have?
So I'll tell you the following thing. It is very easy for me to fall into a position where I would be slapping Jared on the back, or high-fiving Avi Berkowitz, or giving a big hug to Ambassador Friedman. Off hours, all of those things are possible. On hours, which is 23 and a half out of the 24 hours, the title and the position that they represent, by definition, requires a different interaction with them. If you will, it requires every conversation I have with the ambassador to this day, after 3.5 years working with him. I don't have the card in my pocket right now. It must be in my knapsack, but I've got a card, and I go through, because the only thing that these people have in their positions is time. Not different than a Rosh Hashiva. The only value, you don't get paid based upon a deal. You don't get paid based on your value is the time representing the greatest, most moral country in the history of the world. And therefore, what Jared Kushner does with his job is amongst the most impressive things I will ever see in my entire life. How Ambassador Friedman carries himself representing the United States of America to Israel. And this is not with exaggeration. This is not an NCSY Havdalah story. This is, because we have familiarity with them, we feel that they are us on the off hours. On the on hours, they have a privilege of shouldering a responsibility that you and I cannot imagine. Right. And I see it, and I cannot imagine. And for the ability to be able to do both that and to turn it off for that brief period of time of the off hours is something I would not be able to do intellectually or emotionally. So for me, very seriously, I keep a very strong firewall in between that. I would love to be great friends with them, but not in this position. The jobs that they have require me to treat them with the greatness that they deserve.
Can we call them now? It's off hours, right?
No way. I was just on a call, and we're going to be on a call again in another 25 minutes. Their off hours is late Friday night and Shabbos morning. Those are off hours.
Well, please send Ambassador Friedman our best regards. He was actually supposed to come speak at Boca Raton Synagogue when Corona struck, but we'd like to schedule him back in, and we look forward to it. We'll leave you with one last question, Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone. Again, thank you so much for being with us and for all that you do. What's next for you? Maybe there's 4 more years of this. Maybe there's not. Come
cashing in the UAE. That's what he's doing.
What's business opportunities, Rabbi Moskowitz? Please, your best behavior.
Can I share with you, because El starts this Friday? Is that correct? Thursday night, Friday.
Yes, correct.
What's the beautiful part about El? Each day is measured and each day matters, right? Not different than Sphira. If you look at El and you figure out what you're doing after Sukkot, you're probably not approaching El correctly. We have at this moment in time a unique opportunity. If people read about this, if you live this, and maybe people dismiss this because there's other news that's happening, what this administration has been able to do to secure the state of Israel for the next 100 years will be written about not in footnotes of history, but entire compendiums of books that will describe how these 3.5, now 4 years have taken care of America's greatest partner in the region. And as I said at AIPAC, it's not an exclusive club. We welcome other countries to join us in that, because that strengthens Israel. It strengthens us. This is not an exclusivity thing. It's not marriage. It's friendship. There's enough for everybody, but you got to step up and you have to act like that partner. The UAE is trending in that direction in a meaningful way, in a really meaningful way. And I would encourage everybody on this call listening in, go look at what the UAE has done over the last 20 years. Just go look at it. What they accomplished just 1 week ago didn't start 3 months ago. It was brought there by this administration, by Jared and Avi and Ambassador Friedman, but they started this 20 years ago. And their visionary leadership should be commended and complimented. And if anybody thinks this came without risk, not internally within the UAE, but vis-a-vis Iran and other very unhelpful actors in the region, this took courage, it took conviction. And same thing for Prime Minister Netanyahu. And they deserve tremendous courage. And it's a win-win-wins do not come without risk. They absolutely do not. And you should understand the risk. You should appreciate the risk. And to anything that you can do in speaking to your members of Congress and your leaders up to our president and encourage that risk to be mitigated, you should absolutely do so. This courage should be encouraged. That way other leaders can step up with that courage.
Is there a way to show that appreciation?
Sorry. So I apologize for that. So let me actually answer your question. I'm done with my soapbox. But to answer your question, I don't think about past Monday. I have a list of what I need to accomplish tomorrow. And when I'm done with that list, I work on Friday. So what happens, I believe the president will win. I certainly has been my best boss that I've ever had. But my concern is what I do tomorrow. And I think Rabbi Moskowitz knows this. When I took this job, the ambassador and I did not know each other nearly as well as we know today. I took this as a 1 day at a time. And every day I'm on a 10-day contract. We're in NBA playoffs, right? You got a 10-day contract. If you don't prove yourself these 10 days, they should replace me. The job is too important to co-spy. So I couldn't care less what happens next.
Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone, thank you so much for being with us. We hope you travel safely and send our appreciation to your family, who've radically changed their lives to enable you to do what you do, and to Ambassador Friedman, to the administration. We're grateful for all of that. Before you go, is there a great secret you want to share with us? Who's the next peace deal with? We won't tell anybody, we promise.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just whisper. I'll leave you with a secret.
What does it rhyme with?
It's funny. I want to know who the best dressed person at your wedding was.
Oh, that's a good question. The best dressed person in Israel is a guy named Yossi Sagol. I hope he listens to this. You walk into various different. Anyways, that's not neither here nor here for this. But I'll tell you what. Your community exemplifies this. Perhaps you can export this to Israel. Israel's a big exporter of super technology. Maybe they'll be an importer of what you have. And I see this over Rabbi Broide's shoulder over here. Achdus, Achdut, unity. Every challenge.
How much did he pay you to say that?
Not at all. I actually happen just to have seen that. I'm a pretty good diplomat, if I say so myself. That
always were humble.
That every challenge that Israel has faced in the past, that they've come together with unity, they've overcome with flying colors. Every time that there is discord and disunity, for lack of a better term, you find that there are evaluations for the next 15 years wondering what went wrong. And I would only encourage, look, in our country as well, that we have to find a way to put policy and people above politics. And whether that starts in the home, it starts in the synagogue, it starts in the church, it starts in the mosque, it starts in the school. I don't care where it starts. But we are facing a significant challenge for the country, for the world. Here's a time to be able to face this unity and seize this opportunity. If you look at what the UAE and Israel did under the leadership of President Trump and then Sheikh Mohammed, as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu, if that doesn't spark something in all of our hearts, the synagogue we don't go to anymore, the sister or brother that we don't talk to anymore, or the politician that because I disagree with this policy suddenly is the enemy, as opposed to somebody I disagree with. If you can't take Middle East peace and extrapolate to what we need to be able to learn ourselves, our countries, our communities, then we've missed the entire point. We're learning from the people who are trying to divide us and not learning from the examples of trying to unite us. And I would just point out as we walk into Elul, as we walk into the high holidays, as we walk into the political season, let's elevate who we are. Let's elevate this opportunity, because if not, how we answer for that and who we answer to that for is going to be complicated.
And that is why we left the title Rabbi for tonight. Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone, thank you for being with us. We know it's not always easy to be associated. There's a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of vitriol and a lot of tweets, but you are a Kiddush Hashem and continue doing what you're doing. We're grateful to know you. We're grateful for your friendship. Travel safely, and thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Have a great night.
Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
That was fun going behind the Bima. That was good stuff.
Cover that story at the White House. Like, we come in with those press tags behind the Bima.
That's a good idea.
We should go to APAC. Next APAC conference, we should go as
that would have been a great question. Can he get us press tags for represented behind the Bima? Amazing. He's a good guy. And he's doing good stuff. And he's a genuine guy. And you talk offline. He understands some of the challenges. Not everything's easy. Even when you want to acknowledge the good, it's sometimes challenging to be connected, but he really threads that needle well, and we're grateful he gave us his time. Gentlemen, we only have a few minutes left, and we have a lot more to talk about. We came out today with our annual Elul brochure. Now, a lot of communities, they're just trying to get through Elul, and they're just trying to survive, maybe a couple classes, see what they can do. Not Boca Raton Synagogue, not the Boca Raton Synagogue community, and not the Boca Raton Synagogue movement. And a lot of kudos to you, Rabbi Moskowitz. As always, you work closely with our dear friend Rob Shur and put together what is an outstanding Elul brochure filled with programs. We have a challenge this year, a Body, Mind, Soul challenge. You can sign up for 9 WhatsApp groups in the Body, Mind, Soul, Beginner, Intermediate, Advanced categories, and you'll get daily inspiration. There's an app to measure your progress, a 30-day challenge, and to become a better person, mind, body, and soul. You'll see the brochure. You'll see what it's about. You go to brsonline.org//Elul, brsonline.org/Elul. You can sign up to get a daily 1-minute motivation video at brsonline.org/motivation. There's amazing things going on.
Not just remember.
What else is in this brochure?
For anyone.
Oh yeah, for anybody.
Yeah, for anybody.
BRS is a movement.
Anybody.
Yeah, BRS is not a location. BRS is not in Boca. BRS is a movement, international movement.
Now, so I'll tell you why this brochure makes me proud. I think it's impressive. I think there's a lot of great programming in there, and there's something for everyone, which I think we always hang our hat on. The reason why I'm proud of this one, it was not easy, as you guys know very well from the literally hundreds of thousands of texts back and forth.
Literally.
But this was a real team effort. And I think that's what makes me the most proud, right? Rabbi Goldberg, you came in with that idea of the fire within, of the notion of that you can't look externally this year for that sense of inspiration, that you're going to have to find it within ourselves. And we all kind of took that and ran with it. And whether it's from the base medrash to the midrashah to this Elul challenge, where we really tried to find opportunities that people from their home within the pandemic and the limitations could challenge themselves this Elul and could really come to Rosh Hashanah, can come to the new year, feeling great about themselves, feeling that Elul represents an opportunity to change, and that just because the last couple months were difficult, that you can turn a page and breaking habits and starting new things. And I'm really proud of the team effort that was put in throughout the staff, whether it was youth, teen, base medrash, everybody,
Outreach.
to really come to that theme and to help people and to really try to contribute to the betterment of each other and to the community. So I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, people want to know where they can get the brochure. First of all, it should not be lost. Our amazing sponsors of the ELO programming, inspiration classes, panels, speakers, live Hisbodedus at the beach, live Shalashidus for the soul, men, women, midrashah, base medrash. You got to see this brochure. There's something for every age, every background, whether you can be in person or only virtual. This thing for everyone. The brochure is going out in the email tomorrow. It's going to actually be delivered at every member of Boca Raton Synagogue's home by this Friday, and you'll be able to get it on our website starting tomorrow as well, brasonline.org. You'll find it there. There's something for everyone. So I said our sponsors want to thank Yisrael and Dvorah Feder, J. Feder Jewelers, who we should send something to SD Lightstone from them, by the way. But J. Feder Jewelers and the Fedders, thank you so much for sponsoring all that learning.
Cousins of Aryeh Lightstone.
You guys are the best. Cousins of the Lightstones. It's beautiful. We have a few minutes left. So I want to bring a couple more topics. So Rabbi Broide, you're probably not going to be involved in this one, but Rabbi Moskowitz, I don't know if you saw the controversy in Major League Baseball this week, which I found fascinating, not for the particular controversy, but for the bigger question that it raises about the role of unwritten rules, the role of tradition, the role of the traditions that are ingrained. So for those who don't know the story, and I'm of course talking to you, Rabbi Broide, Padres Rangers game Monday
is the
night.
one with the hand.
First of all, I heard the Yankees are doing really well. Okay.
Yankees are doing great, of course. Thank God. Padres Rangers game Monday night. San Diego shortstop Fernando, how do you pronounce his last name? Tatis Jr. He already hit a home run in the game. He's leading in home runs, not only in the league, in the major leagues. And he gets up in the 8th inning with a 7-run lead. And there's a 3-0 count against him, 3 balls and no strikes. So you'll say, well, I don't understand. Isn't his job to try to hit the ball? Isn't his job to try to score runs? Isn't that what he's paid millions of dollars to do? The answer is yes. However, baseball fans will know there's an unwritten rule for a long time that when you have a big league lead late in the game, and you have a 3-0 pitch, you let it go. Let the pitchers try to throw a strike, you let it go. He did not. Fernando Tatis Jr. swung, hit a grand slam over the right field wall at Globe Life Field, put the Padres up 14-3, and he got hammered. He got killed. In fact, the pitcher actually threw at the next player who was up on the Padres. His own manager, the Padres manager, said after the game that he gave him the sign to take the pitch and not swing, and he said, quote, "It's a learning opportunity. He'll grow from it." So a lot of controversy came out. Other players weighed in and said that there's no such thing as unwritten rules. Unwritten rules are stupid. He's paid to get a lead. What if the other team had come back in the 9th inning? No lead is big enough. What is your feeling about the unwritten rules?
So first, well, there are very different unwritten rules, right? There's this unwritten rule. There's the throwing at the batter unwritten rule. So let's narrow it down to this one. I think the whole thing
celebrating a home run unwritten
celebrating a home run, flipping the bat. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. Okay. You play the game. You're there to have fun. Let's not take this too seriously. As our fact checker said, what a chutzpah by the baseball player hitting the baseball. I agree. Go out there, have fun, hit the ball. These unwritten rules are silly in my mind. And here's what if you don't want the guy to hit the ball, don't throw it right down the middle. Let the guy hit the ball. I don't understand. I remember, I'll give you an analogy. I remember when the Patriots went, that crazy year where they went 16-0 in the regular season. I won't say what happened in the playoffs, but when they went 16-0 in the regular season and they blew out team after team. I remember there was a game against the Washington Redskins where Belichick ran up the score and everyone was complaining about him and and Belichick said, our job is to score the football. That's what we do. We don't stop doing that just because.
And that's why the Patriots are the most beloved team in sports, right? Yeah, our job is to win at all
Yankees
costs.
Are real sweethearts over there, Rabbi.
The Patriots. Our job is to win at all costs. Record the other team, cheat, deflate the ball. But it's not about.
You don't
the Patriots
like it?
tonight.
Stop me. If you don't like,
I think there's a big difference. I think we heard that famous story from Rabbi Pesach Krohn. You remember that one with I think it was like a special ed kid. There was some
soccer.
Yeah. Or baseball, whatever it was.
Yes,
right?
yes. If there's a special needs kid that needs a hit, give him a hit. We're not talking about special needs. Unless we're talking about the Yankees.
You're talking about adults.
I wish we had more time right now. I wish I had more time because I couldn't disagree.
You're getting me all upset right now.
I'll tell you why I can't disagree with you more and our fact checker. Because we come from a people and we come from a history and we come from a philosophy and we come from a tradition of unwritten rules. our community is built on unwritten rules. Now, if the community of baseball somehow...
So where do you draw the line? Hold on. So where do you draw the line,
Rabbi?
Rabbi? How many runs ahead do I have to be for me to treat you with kid gloves?
There are unwritten rules that answer that. So my point is this. Nobody says you can't swing at 3-1, but 3-0, the reason the pitcher throws that right down the middle is because that pitcher is living by the code of an unwritten rule that those who came before and laid the foundation for Major League Baseball and for them to make millions of dollars of unwritten rules. You want to revisit the unwritten rules?
So let me ask you a question. Hold on.
Rules, then get together, build consensus, and amend the unwritten rules.
All right, let me ask you a question. When you and I play tennis, are there unwritten rules?
I love the tradition. I love the tradition of unwritten rules.
When you and I play tennis, are there unwritten rules in tennis?
No, you fight till the end.
Unwritten rules.
Yeah, there's no unwritten.
Yeah, there are unwritten rules when you and I play tennis.
There are unwritten rules.
100-1, you would still go.
Yeah. Do you remember? I could give some examples.
When Farley Weiss is up 6 love, 5 love, and he hits a drop shot on me, that is a violation of an unwritten rule.
And Farley Weiss would disagree. Farley Weiss would say, I play every point to the max, and if you don't like it, score a point off of me.
I think Rabbi Goldberg would play that as well if he was winning.
Of course, you are the most competitive person. That's the hypocrisy in all this.
No, but you got to be able to regulate your competitiveness.
So would you flip a bat after a grand slam?
No, that's exactly the point. When a guy celebrates after he hits a home run, he's going to get pelted by the pitcher the next time.
We want robotic,
and he deserves it.
So we want robotic athletes who are they're allowed to show a little bit of fun, but not too much fun, because then that breaks an unwritten rule that no one ever decided was actually a rule.
I'll tell you what we want. What we want is for baseball not to turn into football. There's a brilliant comedian whose routines are not always worth repeating, but a brilliant comedian who's no longer among the living, who has an entire routine about the difference between baseball and football. It's a brilliant routine. And it's baseball is peace-loving. Baseball is about tradition. Baseball, the whole goal is to be safe at home in baseball.
Yeah,
and football is all about throwing the long bomb. Football is all about.
Good. And let's compare the viewership of baseball to football. Let's let our fact checker find how many people, which one's trending up and which one's trending down. Baseball needs to get with the times. You got to pick up the pace. You got to make it fun. You have a young generation of really good baseball players out there. You got to let them have fun.
No, let's teach those young people. The guy should have 10 home runs in the game, but not when it's 3-0 and he's up by 7 runs in the 8th inning. That is a violation of tradition.
If you don't like it, throw me a pitch I can't hit.
That's ridiculous.
And by the way, I like what Nachum Braverman said. You and I should duke this out in push-ups.
You don't want to go there, but let's go to the next sports story for a second. We only have a couple minutes left.
I'm all riled up now. Hit me with the next one.
Also this week, Rabbi Broide, this is one for you because you've led countless trips to Poland, March of the Living. You tried to keep alive the memory of the Holocaust. And this week, Israel's ice hockey team captain, Eliezer Sherbatov, found himself in the hot seat because he signed a contract to play with a Polish hockey team. And the city of the Polish hockey team is Auschwitz. He's playing for Auschwitzim. He's playing for the Polish Auschwitz team. There's a Rabbi Pupko, who called him out online, and they had a whole Twitter debate about this. He says for a Jew to play for the team Auschwitz is treason, a betrayal of the Jewish people, a shameful stab in the back of millions. And the player, a proud Israeli, says, what are you talking about? My goal is to lift the cup, and people in Poland at Auschwitz will cheer a Jew who brought them glory. It'll be a Kiddush Hashem. They'll love and appreciate the Jews. Who's right? Did he do something wrong? Is he stabbing millions, the memory of millions in the back by taking a contract to play for the Auschwitz team? Or is this another generation? And the residents of Auschwitz shouldn't be held accountable? And why can't a Jew play for that team and proudly try to be a hero?
By the way, this was debated in Israel between Menachem Begin and David Ben-Gurion about whether to accept reparations for Germany. And you know what? Germany is one of the biggest trade partners with Israel to this day.
Yeah, but Brody, what do you think? What do you think about playing for Auschwitz? Auschwitz on your jersey.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's a difference between saying, Warsaw, or Krakow versus a place called Auschwitz, which is synonymous with a concentration camp. It's like, okay, I'm on Team Majdanek. You were playing Treblinka today. You can't do that. It's one thing to say, I'm from Munich. I mean, the problem is every one of these cities. Well, you got the Munich massacre. Okay, so then you got Warsaw. You got the Warsaw Ghetto. Krakow. They're all associated with something negative in Jewish history. But
right.
Would you do it? Rabbi Broide? Would you do it?
No. First of all, I played hockey. By the way, I did play hockey. I was even a captain of the JV.
Forget sports. Let's say you were a drummer and you were offered millions of dollars to go play in Auschwitz with the big name Auschwitz behind you. Would you do it?
Not happening. I wouldn't. I think. Again, you're playing in a death camp. That city is a death camp. It's
No,
called
it's
Auschwitz.
Right. So you could argue that there was a long time of history. We've been to the shul in Auschwitz, right? The museum, the shul in Auschwitz. Auschwitz was a proud Jewish city for a long time where Jews were proud to have come from there. So, of course, Auschwitz today is synonymous with death camp. Does that therefore eliminate any Jew's ability? Well, let's say a Jew could be elected the mayor of Auschwitz. Should they not have that opportunity to play? It's bizarre. But is it bizarre? Is it offensive? Is the rabbi right? Is the player right? It's a great question. It's a big question. I don't know. But I want to go back to our last conversation because I see that my tennis opponent has weighed in the comments. And he says in tennis that one shot, 1 point can change momentum. You do not let up until the game is over. But I want to add another variable here. And it's a little bit something called sportsmanship. Would you apply, Rabbi Moskowitz, your ruthlessness, being up 7 runs in the 8th inning, 3-0 count, but bases loaded? Would you apply that ruthlessness? Would you teach that in Little League? Would you in Little League, if one team was up by 20 runs, would you say, keep going at them, keep trying to score as many as you can? In football and soccer and whatever sport, would you apply your ruthlessness with no sportsmanship when teaching youth sports also?
My dear friend, you can't compare Little League baseball players. My dear friend, you know what that means? I'm about to say.
You might as well say with all due respect.
With all due respect.
God bless.
Matthew, I love you, but
with all due respect.
You can't compare Little League baseball players that are playing for fun and for a participation trophy with baseball players that are paid millions of dollars to do it professionally at the highest level. You can't compare the two of them. So, and with that said, I do believe that even within the absurd unwritten rules of baseball, there's reason for sportsmanship. For example,
any wisdom? The elder statesmen of baseball who laid the foundation for the players making millions today.
Who were greasing their hands to cheat, who kept petroleum jelly on their foreheads to throw better curveballs.
I'm okay with that also. I'm okay with that
you're
also.
Okay with cheating? That's ridiculous.
No, because those were part of the unwritten rules. You were allowed to.
All right. You have no credibility right now on that comment. Everything else.
I'm asking you, was there any wisdom to these unwritten rules? Was there any wisdom to them?
Listen, I think we have unwritten rules in our jobs. I think any job, any profession has unwritten rules where you kind of play by those rules. But I don't know who wrote the rabbi unwritten rules. Every job has unwritten rules. My point is this. My point is this. I believe that baseball is trending downwards. That what used to work for baseball 20, 30, 40 years ago is no longer working forward. So you could either say, let's hold on to how baseball worked in the 1950s, or say we have a young generation of really energetic players who have fun playing the game. A Bryce Harper who throws his helmet and throws his bat and runs around the bases and everyone's jumping up and down. Why not embrace that and allow the sport to come to terms with the millennial generation?
I'll tell you why, because can't we still have one sport that has a little something called class? You know what?
Why is that not class?
I'll tell you why. Which great player said, when you hit a home run, you don't celebrate because you're doing your job. When you finish a drasha, you ever spike the sitter on the Bima? Do you ever dance?
Rabbi Brody cheers every time you and I finish a drasha.
Dance? Yeah. You give the greatest drasha you've given. You break out in a dance, or you go back to your seat because you did your job. You did what you were supposed to do. What happened to pride in class?
You're comparing a baseball player with giving a drush on Shabbos morning.
The unwritten rule is you want to go back to the dugout and celebrate. You want to go back to the locker room and celebrate, you celebrate. When you're running around the bases, you don't celebrate. It's classless.
So are you against in football celebrating the end zone?
I happen to not be a football fan. I think it's barbaric. I think that it's not a coincidence. I'm going to get in trouble for this one, but we train football players to unleash their ruthless instinct to try to destroy, break, tackle other people. And then we're surprised when they show aggression in other areas of their life too. I am not a fan of football. I think it's brought out not the best of society, of humanity at all, let alone what's doing to young people with concussions. Football is a terrible sport. It should be illegal right next to boxing.
So when you and I play tennis, you hit a shot right down the line,
what's our record?
You never went, you never let out a scream of joy.
I get the phone call, the text message right after he beats you.
You never let out a
First of all, tennis is a different sport than baseball, but if I did,
the whole point is you're having fun.
Weakness.
No, the whole point is you're having fun. It's entertainment.
When I was in Little League in Teaneck, New Jersey, Jews and non-Jews, they moved the whole Little League to Sunday so we could all play in one league. In fact, one of the people I played with ended up being an all-star for the Montreal Expos, was on our Little League team. When I was in Little League, our coach, part of the way they coached us was not just about how to play the game athletically or physically, that the game had rules. It had technical rules and it had unwritten rules of sportsmanship.
Okay, I'm just saying that for all our listeners out there, and I'm getting texts from my wife that we should stop talking about sports. But for all our listeners out there who aren't in Boca Raton Synagogue,
our wives criticized us when we talked about cooking, and now they're criticizing us when they're talking about sports. What's our lane?
Here's all I'm saying. For all the people that aren't in Boca Raton Synagogue on Shabbos morning, I would like you to put up your drasha, where Rabbi Goldberg gave an entire drasha ripping the notion of a participation trophy, because sports isn't just about making your kids feel good. Sports is about teaching them that in life they're winners and they're losers.
It is not a contradiction to be against the participation trophy and yet believe the sportsmanship.
But that's sportsmanship.
We have a comment here in the chat. We're already over time. We got to end. And
when my mom is chiming in, we know we're in trouble.
Mrs. Moskowitz has chimed in. But I will say this, Mrs. Moskowitz points out, and she's not wrong, that a number of teams have come back from more than 7 runs down. Just like Farley Weiss says, when he's up 6-love, 5-love to me, not because I'm a bad tennis player, but because he was a ranked professional tennis player who thinks he could beat Serena Williams today. But aside from that, and Farley says, I hit the drop shot because you could come back and beat me, which is absurd. 6-love, 5-love.
It's not absurd, Rabbi. Were you never
one second. Mrs. Moskowitz, with all due respect, Mrs. Moskowitz, I'm not saying you shouldn't try to score more runs, or you shouldn't try to win, or you shouldn't try to avoid their coming back. Do it at 3-1. But at 3-0, there's an unwritten rule. There's a sportsmanship.
Rabbi,
at 3-0,
I want people in the Facebook chat to think if that difference between 3-0 and 3-1 is the difference between sportsmanship and I'll tell you sportsmanship. The Boston Bruins, this is for you, Donnie Oppenheimer, defeated the Hurricanes today. And you know what happens in hockey? Hockey, which is a brutal sport, you're checking people. You know what they do right afterwards? They go over and they give each other a handshake. That's sportsmanship. That doesn't mean you don't try to win. You don't try to score the goal. Of course you do. But then afterwards, you shake hands. That's what sportsmanship is.
I want you to say, but here's the deal.
Can you guys shake hands right now?
Yeah, well, hold on. I have a special guest right now. Hold on. I have a special guest right now.
Ooh,
came out in his
Red Sox jersey.
I thought that was actually Rabbi Goldberg running in to say.
Hey, Moshe, what place are the Red Sox in? Rabbi Moskowitz, let me ask you this. Let the MLB Players Association send out a memo, build a consensus, and say, we're amending the unwritten rules. My issue is not that rules can't be changed. The pitcher was operating with the unwritten rules, with tradition. You want to amend them? Come, build consensus, take a vote, send out a memo.
Pitcher was lazy.
That pitcher, no, it wasn't lazy. The pitcher's been operating with decades and decades. I don't know, when was baseball? Where's our fact checker? When did baseball begin? The pitcher was operating with a history of an unwritten rule that at 3-0 in the 8th, 1869, at 3-0 in the 8th, that the batter is going to be taking. You want to change the rule? Just make sure you send them the memo. Anyway, it's 10:07. We got to end. It's been fun. We're grateful to Aryeh Lightstone. Grateful to our sponsor, Donnie Oppenheimer Law Group. If you are listening on our podcast, please rate and please review so more people can hear our amazing guests. I said last week we have an upcoming incredible guest who's going to make a special announcement. I tried to lock him in for next week, but he's not yet ready to reveal the special announcement. So we're still a couple weeks out, but it's going to be special. And I'll tell you this, it's going to be big. We're really excited about it. We have other...
Wait, hold on.
Before you end this right now, we're going to call each other in about 2 seconds.
No, I know. My wife actually just texted me. She goes...
Rabbi Goldberg's going to say, this was the greatest show ever.
Yeah, no. My wife wants me to remind our listeners that you and I are actually really good friends. That most people might see us arguing like this and think we do this all the time. This is,
of course,
enjoy debate.
My wife just sent me a GIF of a person yawning. What do you think that means? No, people don't get that. Let's just say maybe our fact checker, I had a heated political debate earlier today. And like 2 minutes later, we were joking about something and working on something. And like people can't understand how the answer is in a Milchamta Shel Torah with an attitude that we're having an intellectual debate. And 2 minutes later, 3 seconds later,
especially when I'm right.
Oh, there's no issue here.
This is not over.
Yeah, there's no issue. The truth is, this is not my hill to die on. I don't really care about it. I thought it'd make fascinating conversation, but apparently our listening audience, at least our wives, do not agree. So we'll leave it there.
If you look at the comments in Facebook, this generated a lot.
It did. If you'd like to sponsor Behind the Bima, we have sponsors lined up for the next few weeks. But if you'd like to get in line, you can email lee@brsonline.org. We'd love more sponsorship. We'd love your support, whether you live in Boca or elsewhere. Please join the BRS movement. Thank you again, Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone. Thank you to our sponsors. Elul brochure. Check it out on the website tomorrow. Sign up for the Body, Mind, Soul Challenge. If not, for now, this is Rabbi Efrem Goldberg with Rabbi Philip Moskowitz, Rabbi Josh Broide, reminding you, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay holy.